I'd like to call the June 26, 2024 meeting of the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners to order. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I want to start out with citizen input. Rondo?
Good morning, County Commission. I'm Ron Bunzel. I've lived in Bend, Oregon, and Deschutes County for the last 34 years. I want to be extra respectful to you three this morning. Commissioner Phil Chang, Commissioner Patty Deere, Commissioner Anthony DeBone. I think that's the first time I've ever called you Anthony.
You and my mom.
I like each and every one of you, and it's because I've learned to become a better politician. And I challenge you as individuals, not just as commissioners, and any other voter that might hear the sound of my voice this morning. I have lots of reasons to dislike you as party representatives. And sometimes your behavior between each other proves my often disgust. I ask for all of us, whether elected or not, to find better behavior and to treat each other with dignity and respect. That being said, let me say to you, none of you have yet ever achieved my vote. And the reason why is because I do not believe that you have my best and my family's best and my community's best at heart, that you're always representing your party. Now, sometimes I make bad assumptions, and the rest of us sometimes make bad assumptions, and sometimes we see decisions you make that maybe have different reasons than I might project on you. And so I'm always constantly looking for understanding about who you are and what you represent. And in this time in our country, it's more important than ever to be clear on who we are, what side we're on, and what sides there are to be on. We have an opportunity to meet a demand in this community, a huge demand, an overwhelming demand. The conversation was going on for years in this county for a larger commission. And some of you just don't want to look out into this community and listen to what we've been saying to you and what we're saying to you now. The other 6 counties in this state out of 36 that serve their counties with 5 commissioners do so better than you can possibly serve us as 3. 2 of those counties are populated by less than 30,000 people. Thank you very much for your consideration and your time.
Thank you, Rondo. Carl Shoemaker?
Hello, I'm Carl. Live in Bend. When I was an E5 in the United States Coast Guard at Coast Guard Air Station Chicago, which is there because of Lake Michigan, my lieutenant comes into the radio room and says, I need you to get some updated maps for navigation for our helicopters. So I look on the map and get the phone number to call, and I call, and that person gives me another phone number, and then the next person gives me another phone number, and so on, until I get to about the 10th phone number, and he refers me back to the number I just called. So I asked him, that's the number I just called. Isn't there any place else I can get maps? Sorry, can't help you. So I told the lieutenant, I don't know what to do about this. And as far as I know, we never got any updated maps for, of course, Coast Guard Air Station Chicago. In the book Little Dorrit by Charles Dickens, there's a chapter. It's titled The Department of How Not to Do It. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Anyone else in the room? Stephen, do I have anyone online? Okay, Doreen Ty, would you like to join us, please? Okay, Doreen, you need to be unmuted. Thank
Hi,
you. That looks
Commissioners.
like
I was trying. I was driving in and just got stuck in traffic, so I will instead park and say my piece. Sorry, really thought I'd make it. So I'm sitting here with a pile of tree debris off of my tree that touches my house. Many parts of them are the very top of the tree. I'm not sure you really believe me when I call you and say, hey, this is what they're doing. These flight schools need to be brought. Like what they're doing is absolutely insane. It's going to keep people killed. And to set maneuvers over longtime residents' homes, you know, so that they didn't move to the nuisance, you know, since the flight schools created the nuisance, you know, that so they get rid of longtime residents is my assumption of what's happening, or maybe they're just jerks and they do it to everyone. I'm deeply concerned at the county refusing to do a comprehensive impact analysis on the total impacts from Bend Municipal Airport. There are huge impacts from the road and air noise and pollution, as well as devastating impacts to farms. Changes have been piecemealed through week after week for several years now. This appears to be overt omission and avoidance of required environmental impact studies and appropriate mitigation. Hardly a commissioners meeting goes by without some infrastructure or code change to facilitate the takings of this airport. From EFU conversion, spot zoning changes, to changing code to allow airport changes, to road and intersection expansions to accommodate airport traffic, even today at Hamehook. All of this happening through and to prime farmland. I think that you're willfully and knowingly destroying farmland for an incredibly toxic industry that destroys wildlife habitats and farmland and a species die-off comparable to the dinosaur die-off and a population and food pricing and big ag chemical for health crisis. To do this is inconceivable, but you've clearly figured out that taking out a farmer and farmlands in our high desert is so much easier than forest groups as you implement thinning, which increases speed and heat of wildfire. And you benefit from both. 2 weeks ago, you laughed at me for calling you communists. You're right. The way two of you did your last electoral grab and the gifting of public lands, private investments, and infrastructure resources to the giving them to the wealthiest demographic while seemingly aiming to annex and develop farmland to situate communities under narrow toxic flight paths is not exactly communistic. I failed to adequately call it what it is. This taking and redistribution is more like a cross between communism and Stalinism. Please correct it. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. Are there any other raised hands, Stephen? None? Okay, thank you very much. All right, let's go on then to the consent agenda.
Before we go there, just a little update for the fire.
No, we're gonna have that right after.
Right
consent.
after this? Okay, that's
Yes,
fine.
it'll be the first item. It's
Great.
been, it's been superseded to the top of our agenda, which we will be talking about. Nathan's gonna be reaching in on a Zoom conversation. So yes, we will be.
Great. So I'll move approval of the consent agenda. I haven't reviewed a couple of these. I've reviewed a few of them, but not the last two. So as I say, I'll move approval, and then if there's any slight edit, I'll bring it back if needed.
Second.
Any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So now we are actually to item, which is the top of our agenda, the over 2,400 acre fire in South County. And I believe Nathan is going to be available on Zoom perhaps. Let's see, is Eric in the room? Okay. And before we do that, I do want to thank Sisters View Ranch, Matthew Braun. I texted him last night after 9, and that man was going to take off at that moment and take hay down to the evacuation at the Lapine Rodeo grounds for the livestock that have been brought in there. Amazing generosity. As my husband said this morning, we have so many good people that are putting their life on the line and helping out those of our neighbors that are clearly in need at this moment. So thank you, Matthew, for he was going to drive down at 10 last night, and I said, no, this morning is fine. Anyway, I so appreciate that. Do we have Nathan? Do you see him anywhere, Stephen?
So yeah, a little
Wanna go
update
ahead?
from on the ground last night. So Lapine Rodeo grounds, they did cut and bale the parking area. So there's a little bit of grass that comes up from that. And I know there were 9 bales on the property. That's what I heard that were available. And I think they were left for the livestock when they come in for the rodeo, but we'll see what happens. And then Red Cross, thank you to Red Cross. They set up at the Lapine High School. I saw the principal there, and we were talking about 5 o'clock. The wind was going northeast from the southwest, northeast, pushing the fire away from town. This morning, I was able to go around the back side of town, Russell Road, Wilderness Garbage, Midstate Electric, Quicksilver. None of those were affected. So it truly started at the edge of town, and it looks like it worked its way east, so away from town, but it was right at the edge of town. As I say, those are my observations. I know the incident was 250 acres, estimated at 500 acres, and then 1,700 acres last night, and now what, 2,300 or
2,400, over
Yeah, so,
2,400 from
So
the,
that's this morning. There was no big black smoke this morning. Just an hour ago, I was driving by. So it's definitely smoldering and there's smoke, but it doesn't look like there's active progression. As I say, just an hour ago, any moment it could change. So that's my experience from what I saw down there. So no structures in the city of Lapine. There may have been very much dispersed campers affected just east of town, but I don't have firsthand information on any of that.
according to Central Oregon Fire Information, it is 30% contained, but the winds are projected to be 25 miles an hour today. I had conversations this morning with Congressman Benz's office and Congresswoman Chavez DeReamer's office, and so they're aware of it. The more resources we can get on the fire now before those winds kick up is incredibly crucial. So it's good to see that it says it's 30%. Normally, when they say a percentage, it's usually a little better than that percent. They usually are very, very conservative on their call. So I'm hoping that that's the case here, and we can really keep it in its current. Today, the focus is keeping the fire within its current footprint. So
2 other little updates. Structure response came from all around the state this morning. As I say, Gordy's truck stop is the meeting area, and there was just rigs from all over the state there. And these are the structural defense apparatus. So luckily, I didn't say I wasn't on the ground, so I don't know what happened, but I don't think we lost, structures in the city of Lapine per se. And then also going up to Newberry Estates, that was the direction of the fire. So it was a full-on level 3 evacuation last night. And that's the people that were at Red Cross and the rodeo grounds. So as I say, I'm really interested in hearing from an official report.
right, the fire is on the east side of Highway 97, and Highway 97 was never closed, was it? Did you? No, it was not closed. So that's the good news. We do have a document that we need to approve this morning.
I'd like to share a couple comments
Oh, sure, of
Yep.
course.
about the fire as well. Most importantly, I think it's incumbent on us to thank a lot of people for their response to this fire. The BLM and the Forest Service, who responded first to this fire because it initiated on federal land. The governor for issuing that Emergency Conflagration Act order, which then caused resources to start flowing. The structural support from around the state, additional state firefighters, and others. would not be possible without that Conflagration Act and the FMAG. I forget what FMAG stands for, but that federal grant that is now available to support all that additional response. Of course, our own sheriff's office, Nathan Garibay, our emergency manager, the Red Cross, but we have seen containment efforts, containment numbers are really they're pretty hard. It's pretty hard to actually assign a containment number to a fire because it's very hard to predict what the weather is going to do, on the next day. So you really, it's really difficult to say a fire is a certain amount contained, but the fact that this fire started right next to Lapine and burned east and now has a whole bunch of black ground between it and the industrial park. I was talking to John Williams yesterday from Quicksilver, and others, and other businesses and residences in Lapine, I think is a really positive thing. So that black zone is a really good buffer for the people who are immediately adjacent to it on the west side of it. But most importantly, I just wanted to emphasize those thank yous and kind of make sure people understand what is making resources flow on this fire, because that's how we're going to keep it from burning into Lapine and destroying homes and businesses.
Okay. So has Nathan joined us? No,
He may be occupied.
right, I
at this
know.
Time. So for board consideration is to approve the delegation of authority, which you have before you has been reviewed by legal counsel. Thanks to Deschutes County Legal Counsel. And it spells out the direction for the Darlene fire at the bottom, the incident commander for the red team located within the legal jurisdiction of our county, assuming command of the incident at 2300 hours last night. So this does require board approval. Our team was able to move forward with it with the signatures immediately to make this happen, but then it is here for board consideration and approval.
Okay. According to the document, it does say that EM Yocum is the assigned incident commander for the red team located within the legal jurisdiction. So yes, that was 11 p.m. last night.
So do we need to move approval of this delegation of authority?
Yes.
Okay, I'll move approval of this delegation of authority for the Darlene 3 fire.
And I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Mr. DeBonne,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So let's hope that as many resources as possible can attack that fire before the winds pick up today.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. And we'll have Whitney contact Nathan as he's moving into additional meetings, we understand, here in very short order to address this emergency so that they're fully aware of the board's decision. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, one thing to flag that will be interesting to hear about as the dust settles and the smoke settles down on this fire is how much the fuels reduction work that has occurred in the Lapine, what's called the Lapine Basin by the BLM has helped to herd the fire around. There's when the winds and the temperature and the humidity is right, you can't just put a fire out and make it dead. But you can do a lot to hold it in certain places, make it move in particular directions. And I'll be very interested to hear whether all of the work that the BLM has been doing on that Lapine Basin project over the last 15 or 20 years, and whether the work that's been done under the Joint Chiefs Project in South County there in that area has been helpful as well. Because there's the firefighting that we do on a couple of days of the year, and then there's the preparation and resiliency and preventative work that we do the other 364 days of the year that really helps set us up to be successful when the fire ultimately arrives. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nathan. Perfect timing.
Hey, good morning, Commissioner. Sorry for the delay.
That's quite all right. We know you have your hands full. Thank you, Nathan. We're so glad you're in charge in Deschutes County. As I've told you earlier, your reputation is you are the best in the state. So thank you.
Well, we have a fantastic team and good support, so we appreciate that comment and support.
Yes. Did you want to update us at all?
Yeah, what I can tell you is evacuation levels have not changed since last night. In fact, we're going to be working with the incident management teams assigned to the fire to evaluate current evacuations and hopefully be making some updates in the next 24 hours. There is some pretty significant wind. In fact, it's starting to pick up here in La Pine right now. So I think we're gonna have to have a little bit of a wait and see to see how things hold. I will say that based on the morning report, sounds like fire crews made great progress overnight. They worked through the night trying to tie some things together. So I don't want to speak on behalf of the Forest Service or Statutory Fire Management or the Structure Protection Task Forces, but it does sound like they made good progress through the night. So we're hoping to be able to get some good updates today.
Nathan, when you say great progress, do you mean like putting in dozer lines and doing backburns and things like that?
Yeah, I think primarily operations last night consisted of putting in dozer lines with heavy equipment. I think they had 2 dozers working quite a bit through the night, and then using road systems and firing operations to kind of tie a line together. And so I think that they were pretty happy with the progress they saw last night.
So Nathan, how many dozers are actually working on the fire?
You know, I don't have that information right at the moment, but that information will come out, I'm sure, as part of the Central Oregon Fire daily update. They usually include resources assigned.
According to their update this morning, they said it's 30% contained and they want to keep it within its footprint. But of course, if you're saying the winds are already picking up and there's projected to be like 25 miles an hour, that's going to be an incredibly enormous challenge, I would believe.
Yeah, I think the goal today is, like you said, to keep it within the footprint or as close to that as possible, and just hold on to it, and continue to improve the lines based on the briefing that I've had.
Right.
And those winds that are picking up, are those still coming from the south and the west?
Yeah, right now it's kind of a southwest wind. I think it's supposed to be southwest and then turn more westerly today.
And that's what we saw last night for sure. Is there any update on structures or lives?
Yeah, at this point, we're no lives lost, no structures that I'm aware of lost. There has been some impact to some power infrastructure, and Mid-State's working to evaluate that. And they'll be at our cooperators meeting here this morning, so we'll get a better update from them on that. And then we're at this point, it's still so far stayed primarily in undeveloped areas.
Thank you.
I know. Coincidentally, last Thursday, I received my card in the mail from Central Electric saying that when we have wind events and fire, that they will be shutting off my power.
So, they sent that postcard out last year too. So, right on time with our summer season.
Well, thank you very much for that update. As I say, it's all happening in real time. The community was working together real well. The Red Cross station and the rodeo grounds, we know there's a lot of people that are displaced. So it's currently level 3 evacuation for Newberry Estates still.
Yeah, we're still currently Newberry Estates, and then basically the east side of the railroad track is level 3, and then we have some level 2 evacuations kind of surrounding that area on both sides. Yeah, so Newberry Estates is still level 3. Currently, I think we're sitting around about 360 structures in a level 3 area, and a few more than that in level 2 evacuation areas.
Great.
Thank you, Nathan.
Yeah.
Stay safe. We so appreciate all that you do. And please express our appreciation to everyone that you talked to today.
I will do that. And thank you for your support, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Nathan.
Nathan.
Okay, let's now go to our agenda. Item number 10. It's a public hearing. Is Tim Brunell online? Somebody reaching out to Tim?
Here he is. Good morning, Tim.
Yeah,
Hello. We're actually behind times. So thank you, Tim.
yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good morning, Chair, fellow commissioners. For the record, my name is Tim Brownell, the Director of Solid Waste for Deschutes County. My apologies, I can't be there this morning. I'm a bit under the weather, and it's better for me to be here than there. So what is before you today is a public hearing and consideration of order number 2024-026, which would be adjusting rates for our franchise haulers in the unincorporated areas of the county that provide residential curbside waste, recycling, collection, and commercial services. Specifically, this order will provide for a 3% rate adjustment for residential and curbside waste and recycling collection services to residents serviced by Wilderness Garbage and Recycling, Cascade Disposal, Bend Garbage and Recycling, High Country Disposal, and for Republic's commercial customers. In addition to that, it also applies to our waste transfer services, waste and recycling transfer services provided by Deschutes Transfer. In addition, there's a 5% increase for Cascade Disposal's commercial services. And then in addition to that, for specific services, backyard and walk-up services, Cascade Disposal has worked with us to develop a 28% increase for their backyard and walk-up services, particularly in Sun River area, and with Republic Services, a $20 per month service fee for their backyard walk-up and service areas. This is a little bit different than in the past, and let me touch on that. The 3% increase that would be going through represents the rate increase that that the county is charging the franchise haulers for the increase in the $10 a ton tip fee for disposal services. So that's purely a pass-through cost. So for the majority of the ratepayers in the county, the cost increase is due to the solid waste department's modifications to our tip fee. In addition to that, both Republic Services and Waste Connections have been providing backyard and walk-up services for a number of years, many, many years here in the county. And in the past, that differential has been roughly 13%, 13 to 15%. Last year, in January of 2023, Cascade Disposal in Sun River added curbside, well, not curbside, but recycling collection to the entire Sun River community. And at that time, they estimated the impacts of that cost on their service, but did qualify it in their discussions with the Sun River Homeowners Association that they may have to look back at what the actual costs are for providing that service. And after a year and a half, they came back to us and as well as to the Sun River and requested a 28% increase. In Sun River, they're walking up to the side of all the homes. It's no collection is curbside. It's all under HOA rules. So they're collecting from the side of houses. So there's no automated collection. It's all walk-up service, both for solid waste and recycling. In addition to that, Republic Services has approximately over 1,200 customers that they've been providing walk-up service to, also with a differential fee of about 15%. That cost for them is not, or that pricing for services is not close to covering their costs for being able to provide that service. And so instead of rationalizing that cost and expense throughout the whole system, they, and in discussions with the county, as well as discussions with the individual cities, the approach of having a differential fee that is more appropriate to the cost to provide that service was discussed and is being proposed here. Just as an example, with Republic, they can service about 250 households with walk-up service in a day. If they're doing fully automated, they can do over 850 households. So pretty significant difference in efficiencies. So what we've proposed, or they've proposed, and the county is proposing to you all, is to accept a $20 per household fee for walk-up services. If they do not opt to have that walk-up service, they can that charge would be removed. The one last piece I want to speak to is that for people who have limitations in their ability to get that those materials to the curb due to physical or some other ability to get those carts to the curb, and it's not discretionary for them, then both Cascade and Republic have agreed that they would waive those fees in those circumstances. Relative to our budget, this has no impact on our county budget. This does have impacts relative to the rates of the members in the community. There are, if you have questions for me, I'm happy to entertain them now or after the public hearing. And I'm also joined, I believe, in the room, we have representatives from Republic Services as well as Cascade Disposal. So with that, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Tim. Tim, I do have a question. When you say it's a rate increase of 28%, but that's different than the $20, correct?
Correct. The slightly different approaches between how Cascade approached it and Republic Services. Cascade, they have a very closed system in Sun River. They know exactly what their costs are for providing that service, curbside or backyard, since all the routes are done that way. So they were able to come forward with a very specific price for providing that service, and that service isn't discretionary. So they proposed a 28% increase. With Republic Services, it's a straight $20 a month fee. They have very different parameters for different folks. Some people it's a 25-foot walk up. other people, it's a 150-foot walk up. For this year, we didn't really want to try and have a fully gradiated system and measure. We really wanted to create a kind of universal charge. This is the same approach that the city of Bend, city of Redmond, and city of Sisters are also taking.
Thank you. So
I- Yeah, I have some questions. Tim, if you or our representative from Republic could talk a little bit about where these 1,200 customers are and how long they've been receiving the walk-up service. That would be helpful context for understanding this requested change.
Sure. I believe Courtney Voss from Republic Services is in the room. If you are, Courtney, can you come up?
She is.
Thank you,
Here she
Courtney.
comes. Yep.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Courtney Voss, I'm the municipal manager for Public Services. So in the county, these are spread throughout Deschutes County area. They're all over the place. We have quite a few in the southern county area. Caldera is one of the big kind of hotspot areas for them. But it's really pretty widely spread out. I have a map. I didn't bring it here today. I didn't know that I would need it, but I can send that to you if you're interested in seeing it. It's a widespread.
So it's not done on like a neighborhood basis, or
So HOAs are kind of notorious for wanting this service universally for all of their residents. But anybody can sign up for it. So it's throughout the entire county, and it's a service that we inherited through acquisition. So for as long as Republic has been in the market, it's been in existence. It's my understanding that when it started, previous owners, it was really intended to be for people that had difficulty bringing their carts to the curb. And over time, it's just kind of morphed into something that is really more of a convenience-based service. And so we have continued to treat it that way. And the results of that is that people with second homes, vacation homes, will sign up for that service. And then we're pulling carts for people,
yeah.
for a lot of people.
And so you institute this new fee. If people say that I don't want to pay that, their option is to halt that service and just haul their own cans down to
Correct.
down the street. Okay. And so how long has this kind of service existed within Republic?
Well, it's not actually that common for Republic Services nationally. As a company, it exists for people that have disabilities. So if you go to other markets, if somebody is disabled, we will provide that service. When we bring in drivers from other places and they come here to help provide temporary support, they are always shocked by the number of carry-out customers that we have here. So it's not a common service for Republic. But as I said, I think that this has been in existence here in this market for quite some time. And we've only been here since 2019, 2020 during acquisition. So we inherited this program in this market.
Yeah, I could also answer that we know it's been going on since at least 1993. When we go back to board orders going back to 93, there's been a differential fee for it. Back in those days, everything was collected by hand. People would get out of trucks. The automated collection is more recent over the last 15 years or so.
Thank you.
So real quick, so there's a differential fee now. What does it look like from your point of view? Is this?
It's a couple bucks.
Yeah, so it's documenting a $20 fee opposed to what you have been doing, which is
is like it's around $2 a month. And really, I mean, to be frank, I think our hope is that people that do not need this service are going to not
Drop off.
are going to drop out of this service because it's extremely taxing to the system for us to provide it. And we have no problem doing it for people that are unable to do it themselves, and we'll do it for no charge. But for people that are able to, we really need them to move their cans to the curb and need the price to reflect the amount of effort that it's taking our drivers to perform the service for them.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, and the associate injury risk, workers' comp,
Yep.
what do you have to do to ensure you have adequate funds for workers' comp? All those things. It is a significant cost.
Correct.
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you so much.
Tim, along the same lines, just on the Sun River component, I mean that this service has only been offered for a year. Well, I mean I mean, there's been walk-up service in Sun River for trash for a long time, but the walk-up for the recycling has only been available for a year.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And I just want to make sure that I think you said it, but just want to make sure that people went into this eyes wide open, that they were, the owners association was warned that that the service was going to be added. We're going to Cascade Disposal is going to evaluate their real costs, and it could result in an increase. And so no one's going to feel blindsided by this rate increase.
That's correct.
So has the owners association seen this proposal previous to this meeting?
Yes, they have. They've discussed.
Thank you.
Cascade Disposal. I think that the other thing I would just point out is when they first came in and they did not provide a differential rate, that the ask was for a 21% increase for all of our distant rural customers. But the predominance of those costs were related to the Sun River. So we asked them to reevaluate what the costs are specific for Sun River. Hence, those residents who are outside of Sun River are going to have a 3% increase, and those within it getting the side yard service will have the 28% increase.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I do believe at this time I should open up the public hearing. Do we have anyone in the room that cares to testify on this proposal? Do we have anyone on Zoom that has a raised hand? Stephen? Are there any phone calls? No phone calls. No Zoom. No one in the room. Okay, therefore, I'll close the public hearing and we can proceed with further discussion.
So just for clarity, so this is our whole package of rates being republished. That's a kind of the standard of when we do this. When we touch anything in this package, we update the whole package, just to republish the whole package.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm comfortable. As I say, Sun River Owners Association, that was a discussion. Not everybody was real excited about required recycling, but it is the package deal for the Sun River footprint. So, knowing that this discussion has gone through their Owners Association, and thank you for Republic for explaining the history and the expectation of that service. I'll move board order of 2024-026 to provide for rate adjustments for residential, curbside waste and recyclables collection, and for commercial services, waste and recyclable transfer services, and backyard and walk-up services.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? I do want to add a comment. It's really wonderful. The Wilco stores here in Deschutes County actually collect feed bags. And so I've always been recycling my feed bags, but I followed up with the company in Hermiston to see, did they really use those feed bags again? Because I'm thinking like, okay, this is really wonderful. But there's labels on the bags, and I talked to one of the general managers of Northwest Farm Supply, and they said no, there is no way they could reuse those bags because you never know what has touched them, and they have such high standards with the feed that they're filling in those bags. So I'm just wondering, Tim, is there anything you can do with like a heavy duty plastic feed bag? Is there a process out there that can reutilize that material? Because the company actually making the grain is not going to reuse that bag.
Right. Currently, I don't believe there is. However, about a year from now, we are going to be moving into the changes implemented by the Recycling Modernization Act, and film plastic is going to be a new material that we're able to accept at all of our drop-off facilities, not curbside, but at our drop-off sites. We'll have to look at those bags, see if they're of the appropriate resin and thickness, but I believe that would be an acceptable material at that point.
Okay, so you're thinking in a year?
Yep.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you so much. Okay, then calling for the vote, Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tim. I hope you feel better.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, we're now at item number 11. Mr. Doyle.
Morning, Commissioners. Dave Doyle, County Attorney. Time set for a public hearing for your consideration on Order 2024-020, which would provide for annexation of a property into the Rural Fire Protection District 2. The property owners have filed the petition to annex into Deschutes County Rural Fire Protection 2. The district, as you can see in the packet, has approved it. The assessor's office, county clerk, and community development have all reviewed the petition and provided the necessary approvals and sign-offs. This would be the time to open the public hearing, call for any testimony, and then after that, consider approving order number 2024-020.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Therefore, I will open the public hearing at this time regarding the proposed Colende annexation to the Rural Fire Protection District number 2. The public hearing is now opened. Is there anyone in the room that cares to testify? Is there anyone on Zoom? Stephen? Are there any phone calls on Zoom? You don't see anything. Okay, all right. So no one, and we are after our time on our agenda, so we should be okay, should we not? Okay, just confirm with that. All right, so therefore I will close the public hearing and we can commence with deliberations.
I'm supportive of this annexation. I do have a clarifying question I'd like to ask. So, based on the location of this property, I'm guessing that prior to now, they have had wildland fire protection through ODF, but now they're just seeking to add structural protection through the Rural Fire Protection District. Is that?
I think that's accurate. They may have also had some contractual relationship with the district as well for structural protection, but now they're going to go ahead and actually fully annex into the district.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
If there's no other questions, I'll move approval of board order number 2024-020.
And I will second it.
Okay, is there any additional discussion? If not, calling for the vote, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes to approval of board order number 2024-020. Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Okay, I believe Tarek, you are next on the agenda.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Thank you for your time. For the record, Tarek Rawlings, I'm a senior transportation planner with the Community Development Department and the Road Department. Before you today is consideration of second reading of ordinance 2024-002, which relates to the Redmond Airport Master Plan update for their, or a text amendment for their 2018 update. This follows 2 weeks after our first reading, which was 2 Wednesdays ago. And I'd be happy to answer any questions today, but this is kind of the final formal meeting of this process.
And there have been no changes in the last 2 weeks.
No, not on this end at all. Yeah. If you had any questions or anything, would be really the only difference between last first reading and today.
And the really great news is that this airport project is the #1 submittal to Connect Oregon for funding. So hopefully that will be successful. I believe that's in August, that meeting.
Great.
Yeah. So it's coming together.
Well, with that, in support of alignment of the Redmond, City of Redmond's transportation system plan, which has this in it also, I'll move approval of second reading of ordinance number 2024-002, the Redmond Airport Master Plan Update Text Amendment.
Second.
And just to clarify, by title only.
By title only,
Only,
thank you.
yes.
Or we could be here for a while.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes in approval of second reading of ordinance number 2024-002 by title only. And where is that title at? Here it is. An ordinance amending Deschutes County Code 18.80.030 A through F to update the airport safety AS, combining zone imaginary surfaces and noise contour boundaries for the Redmond Airport.
And with that, I'll move adoption of ordinance number 2024-002.
And I'll second it.
Further discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you for the great job, Tarek.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And just kind of housekeeping, the 90-day effect, 90 days after today is September 24th. So it'll become effective. This ordinance will become effective on that day, and we'll inform the applicant and everything. Thank you very much for your time, Commissioners.
90 days, okay. Okay, we're now down to item number 13. Chris Bell and Tom Kuhn.
I could cover it if they're not here.
Okay,
Pretty straightforward. So the request, Commissioners, Dave Doyle, County Attorney, is that the board support a letter of support licensing that would ask the OHA to consider licensing a rapid emergency management as a wildfire incident ambulance service in Oregon. So I think what's occurring is, as you know, the state operates with a system of ambulance service areas, and in this case, the county commissioners oversee all of that. In the case of these wildfires that crop up, they need additional transport. It's as it says here in the staff memo, it's not going to be providing emergency transport per county code and the ASA plan, but it would be advanced life support type service transports that would be in conjunction with a wildfire event and would be in coordination with the ASA. And they're asking you and your ASA committee, including Mr. Kuhn, and I know Chris Bell from County Legal, are supportive of it. The draft letter is in your packet at page 143, and they're asking you to approve of that and authorize either have the board chair sign that or authorize the ASA committee chair to sign that. Could be either.
so we have three choices there. We all could sign the letter, just the chair or the ASA committee chair.
Correct. Yeah, and it's on the draft form there, the letter I see. It's not on any particular letterhead, which I'm assuming reflects them not knowing who was going to sign it just yet.
Okay.
So the one question, well, so let me confirm the scenario here. So they're basically wanting to be authorized to do business in Deschutes County, but this is home base where they may not even be dispatched in Deschutes County because they could be at a federal fire incident anywhere in the west or something. So outside the county.
I think they're planning for a scenario where they need some additional transports and they don't want to be burdening the emergency transports that are dealing with the more serious situations, and they want to be able to
But anywhere in the state of Oregon is kind of my conclusion.
ultimately, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, in our case, it would be within the ASA that you folks govern and oversee.
Well, and they're based in Redmond, so they want to be authorized to be able to be in Redmond as an ambulance provider, but they could be dispatched. In fact, yeah, do you have a feel for who does the dispatching on that? You know, you call 911, somebody's an emergency.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I know
Yeah.
OHA has a role in it, but beyond that, I couldn't speak to it. I
Yeah.
assume Tom could if Kuhn.
Yeah.
was.
So,
And we could certainly get that information to you folks and follow up if that's what you want.
yes, a little bit more information, but I'm supportive of it. It seems they're established here. They're part of the state system already. And, you know, as I say, who would they be dispatched by? Because I know that's our scenario, 911 public safety answering point. Who are they on the run card locally? Do they get on the run card during an incident? So some of that scenario would be interesting to learn.
I could reach out to Mr. Kuhn and ask him to reach out to the commissioners and provide that information. I do know they have vetted this organization pretty substantially through the ASA committee, and they're very comfortable making this recommendation.
They're already contracted with the federal government then through the Forest Service.
My understanding is.
That's what the document says.
Yeah, so it's a state and federal asset. They're based in Deschutes County.
All right.
Well, I don't have a preference or a concern about who signs the letter. I'm supportive of going any of these three routes. Doesn't matter to me.
I'd support board chair just because after the meeting today, we can create the letter and have her sign it.
I'm assuming, Brenda, you have it in Word. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that wouldn't be a problem.
Okay. It sounds, I know. Just sounds like what an appropriate day to have this on our agenda as item number 13, nonetheless.
Lucky 30.
Lucky.
So, yes. So is there a motion, please?
I'll move approval of a letter supporting the licensing of Rapid Emergency Management as a wildfire incident ambulance service in the state of Oregon for board chair signature.
And I will second it.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes.
Thank
So
you, commissioners. I'll reach out to Mr. Kuhn and have him get back.
Okey-doke. We're now up to item number 14.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Lucky 14, I might add.
Lucky 14.
My favorite number, actually.
There you go.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Christy Bollinger, Deschutes County Property Management. We also have Shelby here and John online. So I'll go ahead and have them introduce themselves.
Yeah, good morning. Shelby Knight, Resilience Planner with Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council.
And then John with Apex.
Do you see John Foxwell? Okay. John, did you want to say good morning?
Good morning, John Foxwell with Apex. Good morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
So Commissioners, the reason we're here today is to ask for you to accept a $100,000 grant from Oregon Department of Environmental Quality. And this would provide funding to complete some pre-construction survey work. And John will get into the details of that more on the solid waste orphan site located on the property that's reserved for the Core 3 property. So kind of going back in time, we came to the board about 2 years ago asking to apply for this grant. And because of staff shortages and whatnot at DEQ, It took some time, but we finally did get approval. So we're super excited about that. So John's going to just kind of take us through a little bit of history on the site and explain in more detail of exactly what this $100,000 grant would cover. So with that, we'll hand it over to John.
Okay, good morning. Thank you, Christy. As Christy mentioned, we're talking about the former Redmond Rod and Gun Club property. And I think most of you may be familiar with this property, at least from our last discussion a little bit ago. So I'll just kind of be brief with the background material. It's approximately a 250-acre site, most of which is going to be used for the Core 3 project. It has, really 3 distinct areas. The former Redmond Rod and Gun Club property that operated until about 2018. The sheriff's department had a firing range at the site that operated from the 1970s till about 2018. And then the third component of the site was a large disposal area, which is why we're here today. There's a large disposal area out there that reportedly received just surplus materials and such when the Redmond Airport was transferred from federal ownership to the city. And they basically used a low point out there to bring a bunch of junk over and place it there. Throughout the years, it's been used as an orphan disposal site by the community. This is a map of kind of the key parts of the site. The key parts of the site, really the right-hand part of the site is all of the former Redmond Rod and Gun Club areas. The former shooting range is right here. This is the former shooting range. And then the landfill area is here. The former disposal area is here. So this grant is very specific in that it's targeted towards the disposal area. And I raised that for two reasons. It's that way for 2 reasons. One, the grant funding comes from the DEQ's orphan solid waste account. So the tipping fees that are paid to bring hazardous waste into the facility at Arlington, a portion of those generate a fund to be used to characterize and clean up orphan landfills, just like this one, across the state. And so the funding from this is limited to the landfill. It can't be used on the other parts of the site because those aren't landfill areas, and also the county. The county is in the liability chain on that. So our grant is very specific, for the landfill only. Fortunately for the project, the landfill is really the last part of the site that has a significant unknowns. We've been at this process for 15 years now. Since 2009, going through the entire DEQ cleanup process in terms of doing the remedial investigation, feasibility study, which helps us determine what the appropriate cleanup action is for the site, and this is all memorialized in the record of decision, which is the document that DEQ issues to approve the cleanup. And so that's what the record of decision is. And this is all for the entire site. So the majority of the heavy lifting on the characterization and assessment of the site has been done. The ROD, it documents DEQ's approval of the remedial action and any associated conditions. At this site, the primary cleanup action is going to be excavation and on-site containment. So the wastes that are present, in the various shooting ranges at the property, and the wastes that are present in the landfill will be excavated, and a containment cell will be constructed. What that exactly looks like is going to fall out of the master planning and design process. But the Core 3 project being in the master planning process, they know there's a certain amount of material that we need to find a place for to put in a containment cell or cap over it, along those lines. So these materials from the landfill in the other areas, they'll be excavated, placed into a elongate pile or something similar, and then covered with several feet of clean soil or aggregate, so that there's no exposure, so that the burrowing creatures can't get in there. If kids or somebody else got in and were playing around, they wouldn't be exposed in contact of the contaminants in the soil. This cleanup action of the excavation and on-site containment, it really is about the most cost-effective way we can do this, because what that does is it results in all of the materials basically being managed on site. We're not excavating them and having thousands of trucks, drive to the landfill. We're not filling up, the county's landfill. It's all being managed on site. So that's going to be about the most inexpensive way we can handle it. Along with that, when you do an option like this, there are some different conditions that apply, and those include agricultural and residential land uses. None of that's happening at the Core 3 site. Future groundwater use. Groundwater is not contaminated out there, but if there is wholesale groundwater use that's going to be done out there, DEQ is asking for additional confirmation that there are no groundwater impacts as part of that. And then we have a contaminated media management plan. It's basically the document. It's basically the management document for the site moving forward. Once the remedial construction is done, it's the document that details inspections, what to happen if you have like a weather-related subsidence or something like that, how to repair it, actions to take in event something occurs. These are all very standard conditions. And again, in terms of the final action, cleaning up and containing it on site, it is both the least expensive remedial action, but it's also a remedial action that can really just be integrated into the site preparation for the Core 3 facility. So moving on specifically to the grant, as we are continuing the master planning at the site, the gun club areas, the range areas that I showed you, at this point, they are sufficiently characterized for cleanup. They're sufficiently characterized for cleanup. We know where the contamination is located, its extents, etc. So that is sufficiently characterized. The disposal area is fairly well characterized. And the prior work that was done out there was primarily done to assess chemical conditions, whether there were contaminants in the landfill. And the findings of that is that the contamination in the landfill is very limited. The contamination in the disposal area is very limited. But there are some things that, given the fact that we're going to excavate this material out and place it in an engineered fashion, there are a couple big questions that still need to be answered. One of the waste content. Is there, are there, old cars buried down there that we don't know about, or large accumulations of something else? surprises, etc. And then also the other big unknown is, given the age that this landfill was in use, it's quite possible there's asbestos in the materials, and also asbestos in the materials, and that concern is obviously for handling during construction and making sure those are contained properly, but also the excavation of those materials, if there's asbestos present, would generate airborne dust. Okay, would generate airborne dust with asbestos. That's not the best situation, but it's something that's easily planned around if you know in advance. Plenty of controls that can be put in place for workers to do this on a very straightforward and cost-effective basis if you know about it first. And so that's the goal here. These are the primary reasons we are doing the additional characterization in the disposal area, is to make sure that we understand what's in there, make sure that we are able to develop a plan for asbestos monitoring and controls if needed. And also, I kind of glanced over this first bullet, really coming up with our best estimate of how much waste is there. So those are the three primary objectives of that. And so, you can see when we start to talk about these volumes, okay, in the, over at the gun club, there's quite a bit of material here, probably 20,000 cubic yards of soil here, about 8,000 cubic yards of contaminated soil here. But based on our estimates, what we're seeing in the landfill, there's probably 80,000 cubic yards here, close to 80,000 cubic yards here. But, keeping in mind that, this is material that was, buried in a low spot, maybe there was some excavation. We don't really know the depths and how deep it goes. Okay, so one of the things that we're going to be doing is geophysical survey here that will help us map the vertical extent of the waste. But again, you can see here, this is 80,000 yards, and if this is off by 10%, 25%, etc., those costs begin to become significant. So we want to do our best effort at this stage to define this volume with as much accuracy as possible.
John, I have a question for you.
Yes.
So volume means cubic yards, but what
Cubic
does
yards.
area indicate?
The area is the area, how many square feet of impacted
That's
soil there is.
square feet then. That's
That's square
that was
feet.
my
Yep.
answer
Square
I
feet
was
and-
seeking.
yep.
Thank you.
Of course. So the overall scope of the grant funded activities, as we discussed, we're going to do geophysical survey out there, and what that's going to do is that's going to characterize the contents of the disposal areas. That's going to map it out. If there's large areas of metallic debris, other suspect stuff, it's going to map that out. We're going to know the location of it. It's going to map the extents of the waste, both vertically and laterally, so we can confirm the removal volumes. Okay. Following the geophysical survey, we're going to do a pre-design investigation, basically a test pits. We're going to go out there with an excavator, and we're going to excavate at specific locations based on the results of the geophysical survey to characterize those materials, characterize what's there, characterize whether there's asbestos present. And then while we're doing this excavation related work, we're going to set up airborne monitoring stations that will help us understand whether there is asbestos in the bulk soil and the bulk materials that are being excavated, and whether that's mobilizing to the environment. So while we're doing this, we're going to do air monitoring that's going to help us answer this question of is it possible there's airborne asbestos? Okay. These are,
I do have a question for Christy. Christy, there is no well on this property, correct?
There is remnants of a well. It's not active.
Okay, but there's no way to test the water in the well?
John, do you know the answer to that?
the water, there is a drinking water well right in here. If you see my cursor, there is a drinking water well right in here. That well has been capped. That well has been tested and confirmed that it's not contaminated. Confirmed that it's not contaminated.
When was that done?
If I could just expand on that, the types of contamination that we're seeing out here, primarily lead, combined with, which is not very soluble, combined with the dry conditions and, 200 feet, 200 plus foot depth of water, really limits the potential that groundwater is affected out there.
Okay, so it was tested recently then?
It was tested. Yes, this well was tested recently as part of our work. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Recently being 5 years ago.
If I could just ask about the water supply for the Core 3 project while we're talking about wells. So water utilities have been run across Highway 26 now to both the Oasis Village and this area. Is that correct?
The line that was ran for under the highway was specific for Oasis Village. So the project team is aware that another line will have to be brought over to supply Core 3. And the reason for that is my understanding is they just wanted to get the line over. It would be less expensive to get it over for Oasis Village, and then Core 3 could deal with that portion later to supply the property.
I also believe there was a difference in the size of piping needed for each project.
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, we want to know whether there's groundwater contamination in the area anyway, but we're not going to be sinking a well and seeking new rights in order to serve Core 3.
It'll be municipal water.
Thank you.
Okay. So the geophysical survey, the pre-design investigation, this is the majority of the work we're doing. This is the majority of the work we're doing for the grant funded activities. Two other smaller items, kind of checkbox activities that we have included in the scope is to do a cultural resources review and a Endangered Species Act ESA a review. Both of those are basically desktop paper studies that are submitted and reviewed by respective agencies. Not expecting any issues with those. The reason for doing that is this is the first grant that's been received for the cleanup for the project. Any other grants that we go after, brownfield grants, for instance, to maybe help fund part of the cleanup, or other transportation related grants the team may go after to fund cleanup. Anything that has a federal nexus, federal grant opportunity requires that these two items be done. So we're just trying to look ahead and get these completed with the grant funding so that we're set up to go after and pursue future grants. The last item is we're going to wrap this all into a report that will be used by the design team. So that at this time, this kind of concludes the broad remarks I wanted to provide. If the commissioners or anybody else has any questions on this, I'd be pleased to answer them at this time.
The one question you talked about the engineered solution for the waste, so and possibly moving it. So basically, aligned cell designed for the volume estimated. Is that the concept?
Exactly. Exactly. The last time that we were engaged with the master planning process in this, integrating the cleanup, there was a discussion that the Core 3 project is going to have a kind of an isolation berm around the north and west sides of the property because of the residential that is east and residential that is north. There was going to be some kind of berm to shield that out. And so in this case, a certain section of the berm would be made up of the contaminated material. So it would be excavated, placed on the soil. There is a call for a liner that goes over the top to prevent burrowing creatures from going down. And then we have to put a certain amount of soil on top of it. A liner beneath is not required because the contaminants at the site are relatively insoluble. They're not contaminants that we worry about leaching, migrating 200 feet or so down to groundwater and affecting it. So no liner underneath, liner on top, and that's to prevent the ecological receptors, burrowing critters from going down and contacting the contamination.
Well, and it's waste that was put in there in the 40s, possibly or probably. So, I mean, it's probably done some degradation, and I'm sure it's been watered thoroughly at least a few times over the last 70 years or so from just natural rain cycles. So it'll be interesting to see what's in there. Well, yeah, being involved with the Core 3, it's exciting to know that they're really kind of paving the way for other items associated with this whole project. So with that, I'll move to accept the Solid Waste Orphan Site Program Grant Award and authorize the board chair to sign document 2024-098, an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality.
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
I guess one other kind of administrative question I want to ask. So the writing of this grant, the administration of this grant, where is that living? I mean, I understand we would be the applicant because we're the landowner, but I mean the actual person hours of work to do all that. I mean, how is that happening?
So the IGA with DEQ was finalized. It's actually part of the packet. So that work's all done. So the next step is to enter into a direct contract between the county and Apex so that they can complete the work. And that's being managed through my office.
Okay. But the grant writing did Apex do that or?
A lot of it. Yeah. COIC, property management, of course, county council, we all contributed to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, therefore, another discussion? Calling for the vote, Commissioner DeBonne.
Yes.
And Commissioner Chang.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelby.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Okay, we're now at item number 15. Thank you, Cody.
All right. Good morning, Chair, Board. For the record, Cody Smith, County Engineer, Assistant Director, and for the Road Department. My first of two items this morning is in regards to a notice of intent to award for an engineering services contract for the department's South Century Drive, Sun River Corridor Intersection Improvements Project. So the road department is obligated approximately $10.3 million in our 5-year road capital improvement plan. for the South Century Drive Sun River Corridor Intersection Improvements Project. The project is a combination of 3 different intersection improvement projects that are effectively being bundled together. Those intersections are the intersection of South Century Drive with Huntington Road, Spring River Road, and Venture Lane there within the Sun River Business Park. And that Venture Lane intersection is actually 2 intersections because Venture Lane is such a kind of a short block to the next intersection there with Venture Loop. So, and the project additionally, just the context there, right in and around Sun River, there's going to be some fairly significant bicycle and pedestrian multimodal type components to this project as well. So the department issued an RFP for the engineering services for the project on January 3rd of this year. On or before February 9th, we received 2 proposals. Those proposals were from HHPR and Parametrics. After a review of the proposals and interviews with the consultants, proposers, the selection committee, which consisted of staff from the road department as well as staff from the Sun River Owners Association Public Works Department, selected Parametrics as the top ranked proposer. So department staff conducted negotiations with Parametrics between March 22nd and May 30th. The negotiations revolved around the contract that will include a fairly significant level of survey work initially, both the topographic survey and then boundary retracement survey for a fairly extensive area there around between the intersections of South Century Drive and Venture Lane there and around the Sun River Business Park, and then to the south there at the Huntington Road intersection. Another big component of this contract will be implementation of project refinement and a very involved public outreach process. So we'll be developing and refining multiple concepts specifically for the 2 intersections at Venture Lane and Spring River on South Century Drive, and then getting those out to the public, getting public feedback through several different venues. We intend to have up to 2 virtual open house events as part of this effort. We also plan to have up to 2 in-person larger open house events as part of the development of this project. And then we also anticipate numerous smaller focus meetings with various partners in this project. And there's you know, kind of a long list of partners and key stakeholders in this project that would include the assorted owners associations around the project area there, the Sun River Owners Association, Crosswater, Caldera, the business park, business and property owners, Three Creeks Elementary School, all the various utilities that have facilities within that area. Contract's going to include right-of-way acquisition services. We anticipate some fairly large right-of-way acquisitions as part of this project with the footprint at all 3 of these intersections not being big enough to accommodate more modernized intersection treatments. And then obviously generating the project plans, specifications and estimates to get this out to construction. So with that, obviously I'm happy to answer any questions, but otherwise before you this morning for consideration is document number 2024-029, a notice of intent to award contract in the amount not to exceed $1,531,477 to Parametrics. Publishing approval and publishing of the notice of intent will start a 1-week protest period for concerned parties to submit protest of the award. If no protests are received, the award would be handled administratively by the board. A few other things I do want to note. Certainly should emphasize this is going to be a multi-year contract, a multi-year project. We anticipate this project stretching out over 4 fiscal years. We have budgeted $600,000 just for preliminary engineering alone in fiscal year 25. We've got about $1.6 million total budgeted in fiscal year 25 just for this project. That would also include right-of-way acquisitions and a little bit of construction money that we budgeted for in the event that some of this work could kick off in fiscal year 25. Did also want to note going into negotiations with the top ranked proposer that the initial price tag they gave us was about $1.8 million. So we did get them to come down about $300,000 on the not to exceed contract amount for this. So part of the reason why you see the negotiations took a couple months.
Saying that originally it was like 1.8
Yes.
and now it's 1.5.
Yes.
Okay, what was HHPR's bid?
So these weren't bids; these were qualifications-based proposals that were
So
submitted.
then they don't have to give you a cost.
That's correct.
And you're just analyzing their proposal.
Their proposal qualifications. We also did interviews with them. Yeah, I did also want to point out that Parametrics is the project lead and will be the contractor with the county on this. Their team is composed of several sub-consultants that includes Kittleson and Associates, GRI Consulting Engineers, JLA for the public outreach component, and then Common Street Consulting for the right-of-way acquisition services. One last thing I wanted to point out is that what our intent is while we having all these projects bundled in one design contract, we anticipate that the South Century Drive Huntington Road roundabout project that we'll be able to advance that to construction in calendar year 2025. So our intent is to kick this contract off, basically bundle all three projects through conceptual design together. But then that Huntington Road project will peel off and we'll advance that to construction fairly quickly. Meanwhile, taking more time and due diligence to go through that public involvement and refinement process for the intersections there more in Sun River proper. Okay, and with that, I'll again happy to answer any more questions.
That Huntington Road intersection, I've driven that with a tractor and a 14-foot wide swather because moving it from a field to our residence, I've been down that road at 10 miles an hour with big agricultural equipment. So it makes me appreciate the design of these roundabouts, making sure you can get through what you need to. Also, Sun River Lapine Economic Development, we call it the SLED board. That's a bunch of business people. And year and a half ago, we were on the verge of writing a letter demanding that there's action taken at the business park. So, and James Lewis is on the Owners Association board. He said, whoa, you know, it's in the works. So he could see this right over the horizon. And I was at that meeting kind of forgetting that this was all coming out there. So I'm just saying there's engagement already at the Sun River Lapine Economic Development Board. Great opportunity for either invitation to some of these community outreach meetings or just at that meeting someday. So it's a monthly meeting. Yeah.
So, and I'm hearing that there are a lot of bike riders in that Venture Lane area and that really it's an accident waiting to happen. And so it sounds like we're stepping up for making it much safer.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, maybe a couple other things I'll point out here. So, in terms of, some of the safety component of this, the intersection at South Century and Huntington Road was actually identified in the department's 2019 Transportation Safety Action Plan as one of our top safety sites that were in need of a safety improvement, just because of a history of injury crashes that have occurred at that intersection. Meanwhile, with our transportation system plan, our recent transportation system plan update effort, the South Century Venture intersection was identified as one of two intersections in the county over the 20-year TSP horizon period that was going to have an operational issue, was going to have a poor level of service, would actually reach a level of service of F, which basically means it'll be very congested over the 20-year horizon period for the TSP. So yeah, and meanwhile, definitely recognizing the big bike ped component coming out of Sun River, coming out of Caldera, just with the resorts coming into the business park there. So opportunities to do a better job of connecting all that together, opportunities with partners in the area there for what those will look like, how they'll be maintained when they are built. So there's going to be a lot to talk about in regards to the bicycle and ped component with this project with the community.
The volumes of traffic, through this area are huge. This is an incredibly important transportation zone for so many people in South County, and it's really exciting to see this project getting going. Things from the Transportation Safety Action Plan and from the TSP, moving into action. And thank you for handling that and shepherding the project along. Also really glad that there's going to be a lot of public engagement, community engagement, stakeholder involvement in the design of all of these facilities, because it's a lot of interested stakeholders down in that part of the county. So sounds like the project's off to a great start.
With that, could we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move approval of board chair signature of document number 2024-029.
And I will second it.
Is there any further discussion?
No.
Commissioner Chang calling for the vote.
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So thank you, Cody.
All right. And next item's also mine.
That's you too.
Can I get promoted to a panelist here? I have a slide deck I'm going to share, and I'll do that via Zoom. Bear with me one moment while we get prepped here. Okay. All right. Once again, for the record, Cody Smith, County Engineer, Assistant Director, Deschutes County Road Department. Board, I wanted to share a brief presentation with you this morning to share some of the feedback and results from our recent virtual online open house that we had for the Northwest Lower Bridge Way, Northwest 43rd Street intersection improvement project. And then after that, the intent this morning is to present to you for consideration an amendment to our engineering services contract for this project, so we can proceed with the phase 2 work to advance this on through the NEPA process that we're going to have to go through as we're have need to acquire some right of way from the adjacent BLM lands on this project, and then obviously to get this thing advanced to construction. So first, get into my presentation here. So again, I want to share just some of the feedback we got from our public outreach effort for this project. So a little bit of background information. The intersection of Lower Bridge Way and 43rd Street is a rural three-leg intersection serving communities north and west of Terrebonne, primarily Crooked River Ranch, but also, subdivisions, farms, other communities further out on Lower Bridge Way. This corridor sees moderate to high average daily traffic. I don't have numbers right in front of me, but relative to other intersections around the county, this is a very high volume traffic road. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 8,000 vehicles per day going through this intersection, at least on the Lower Bridge leg, and then heading north on the 43rd leg into Crooked River Ranch. Intersection does have a history of some crashes here. The most recent 5-year period, those are all non-fatal injury crashes at worst. We don't have any recent history of any fatal or serious injury crashes that have happened there. That's not to say they've never happened there, but Lower Bridge Way through this route is part of the Sisters of Smith Rock State Scenic Bikeway. So there's a fairly significant volume of bicycle touring type traffic that we see on this road. So improvement of the intersection is one of several projects that we identified in our recent TSP update as a high priority project. So phase one for this project that we kicked off in May of last year consisted of preparing three conceptual alternatives for this intersection, developing conceptual level renderings for those, and then preparing preliminary cost estimates for them. Then doing some traffic analysis work to look at what future operations would be for those proposed intersections compared to the existing conditions. We've also engaged in some initial coordination with the Bureau of Land Management to get a handle on what the NEPA process is going to look like for us, knowing that any improvement we do here, we're going to need additional right-of-way for the road, and as the right-of-way here is completely surrounded by BLM managed lands. Knowing that we're going to have to go through their process to obtain a right-of-way grant. And then the big part of this was our public involvement process, which was our virtual open house that I'm hoping all the commissioners got a chance to look at. We advertised it pretty heavily and got a lot of feedback and a lot of participation in it, which I'll get into. But first, just a quick overview of the three concepts we proposed with that in that open house event. So concept number one was just a very modest right turn channelization concept. So this included an extension of an existing right turn decel lane into a more separated right turn lane at the intersection. Also, this included the inclusion of a buffered bicycle lane to get bicycle traffic through the intersection there. This option provided some protection for new additional protection for the bicycle traffic, and helps alleviate a sight distance issue that we have at the intersection, but pretty minimal benefits from this one. With that, pretty minimal estimated cost with this one at $285,000. But this was our first concept. Concept number two was a full realignment of the intersection. Basically, the concept is taking, recognizing the primary through movement from Lower Bridgeway onto 43rd and basically making that the through alignment, and then constructing a left turn lane for folks that would be heading westbound through on Lower Bridgeway. They'd be utilizing that left turn lane. It also included implementation of stop control for the lower volume approach instead of the through movement, higher volume that's happening through the intersection. Estimated cost for this one was just a little over $2 million. A couple things to note with this one, while it does kind of help in terms of mobility for those primary vehicle movements, it doesn't do a great job to help get bicycles through this intersection any quicker. And it also, to some extent, encourages that through movement traffic to move a little faster as they're going through this intersection. Another thing to note, it's not really depicted on this picture, but this requires some improvements that exist not only across BLM land, but also within Bonneville Power Administration right-of-way and a Portland Gas and Electric right-of-way that exists out there. And then lastly, concept number three, which was a roundabout option. So this was construction of a single lane roundabout that would include separated bicycle facilities. They could be ped facilities too, but we're not really dealing with pedestrian traffic out there. Fairly typical roundabout that much like we're building at various intersections around our county right now, and have in the past few years. Estimated cost for this one, just a little bit more than that realignment concept at about $2.1 million. But so those were the three concepts that we floated with our public involvement process. So that virtual open house was conducted between March 8th and April 19th of this year. We had 142 responses received. The map on your screen there, all those different colored dots are where we got comments, where commenters provided their address, and we did have a few commenters that didn't provide us their residential address, but primarily most of them did. So you can obviously see there's a fairly heavy density of those dots up around the Crooked River Ranch area there. A lot of them actually in Crook County in Crooked River Ranch, but obviously the folks that are going to be impacted by this the most, that's where that area is where we receive the most participation from. You'll also notice the different coloring on those. So the red dots, and I'm going to get to with my next slide a little more of some of the comments and rankings that folks gave us. But the red dots on that are identifying folks that voted for the roundabout as their first choice in our ranked voting system that we had on the virtual open house. The greenish kind of teal dots are the folks that rank the realignment concept as their first choice, and then the purple dots are those who rank the right turn channelization as their first choice. So with that ranked choice voting system, you see from the graphs here, in terms of total votes for a first choice, we had 91 people out of that 142 that participated selected the roundabout as their top choice, while 30 folks had the realignment and 21 folks had the right turn channelization. So if we looked at these in terms of average ranked choice score, the roundabout concept had the highest score at 2.49, while the realignment was at 1.84 and the right turn channelization was at 1.67. So kind of just a general summary of the comments we received. I mean, all these folks provided us different comments, but just kind of trying to summarize them as best we could here. Some of the a general summary of the comments we got were that the roundabout would provide the best long-term safety and traffic operations benefit. The roundabout needs to be sized to accommodate large trucks, motorhomes, and emergency vehicles. Obviously, we've got a component of recreational vehicle traffic going out there. We've also got a component of hay trucks and other big trucks for agricultural activities that are going through this intersection with some frequency. Lot of folks, as you saw, we had a lot of comments from Crooked River Ranch residents. So we had a lot of comments that we needed to prioritize the Crooked River Ranch traffic with this project. And then we got several comments from folks that were effectively saying, why are you guys even looking at this project? You need to get out and do something with the intersection of US 97 and Lower Bridge Way before you consider doing anything at this intersection. Which I'll note, obviously, that the US 97 Lower Bridge Way intersection's been part of a very well publicized project that's going to be beginning construction this year that ODOT will be delivering. What's that?
We have a day
I
when
don't have an exact day. I have a month. I was told July that
July.
that there'd be construction activity starting in July on that one. The contract's been awarded. They're ironing out schedule now. The biggest challenge they're having is just with some utility relocations that are behind schedule out there.
Well, the good news is the roundabout in Sisters is, I was told by Robert Townsend yesterday, is going to be done the end of July. So it sounds like things are happening.
Yeah.
And at least that will, some of the traffic congestion through Sisters will be perhaps eliminated.
Absolutely. So in terms of the project design team, our finding is that the preferred alternative is the roundabout. The roundabout provides the best combination of motor vehicle and bicycle safety through traffic calming measures, through protected bicycle crossings and multiple options for bicycles to get through the intersection. The roundabout provides the best level of service in terms of keeping traffic generally free flowing through the intersection in all directions of movement. The roundabout concept's gonna in relative to the realignment concept is going to have a much smaller footprint in terms of the right of way and the impacts on the BLM land, and also will probably let us avoid impacting the BPA and PGE rights of way that are out there. Obviously, like I just showed on the last slide, the roundabout was the highest ranked choice, had the highest ranked choice score by public participants in our virtual open house. And really kind of a negligible cost difference between that and the realignment concept. So with that, our next steps. So again, when I'm done talking here, the intent is to have the board consider approval of our contract amendment with HHPR, who's performing the engineering services on this project, so that we can proceed with the design and NEPA clearances for the roundabout concept. So the intent here is first, we're going to do a little more refinement of our roundabout concept. We're not necessarily certain that the location we're showing the roundabout in that concept is going to be the best spot. We actually are more leaning towards maybe move it. So right now it's shown in the northeast quadrant of the intersection. We're thinking now that the northwest quadrant of the intersection might actually make more sense. Gets us further away from those BPA, PGE rights of way. That area is a little more disturbed already, so that there's less chance of during our NEPA clearance work. So we're gonna, with that NEPA clearance work, we have to go out and do biological assessments, cultural historic resource assessments. So that area up there is much heavily more disturbed. And then just in terms of construction staging, we think we can more easily build the new roundabout there and generally keep traffic going basically free flow through the intersection during as much of the construction period as we can. So yeah, I'm pretty much outlined everything there on the screen. So we're shooting for having this wrapped up so we can get it to construction in calendar year 2025. We might be a little optimistic with that. So our big unknown is once we do have that NEPA document and report done, is then our submittal to the BLM and how long it's going to take them to review that and approve that document, which we anticipate will have a finding of no significant impact. But nonetheless, that we're shooting for getting this thing out to bid in calendar year 2025. I think that's my last slide here. With that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
How long do you think the NEPA document approval will take?
In our initial coordination with the BLM, I mean, we couldn't get a firm duration for that. It could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be longer. We did get a firm sense from them was that we were better off doing all of the NEPA work ourselves as opposed to relying on them. We'd probably be waiting 3 or 4 years if we had just filled out our right of way SF 299 application and submitted it to them and waited for them to do all the NEPA work. It'd be many years. So.
Great.
Cody, I think I asked before about communications with Jefferson County, contributions from Jefferson County for this project. And the discussion was, Deschutes County is covering this project. I just looking at all those dots, where the comments on the project came from. I'm not saying we should ask Jefferson County to contribute, but I think it would be appropriate to at least just kind of share that public input information with them, and just make sure that they understand that we're undertaking a significant project that will primarily benefit Jefferson County residents and taxpayers. Again, not to ask for any contribution or anything, but just a little bit of appreciation or credit. And I'm looking at Nick more than you, because I think that'd be a reasonable thing to for county administrator to county administrator or something like that to communicate.
Okay. Into our district meeting for AOC and just kind of lay it on the table at least, and then get some acknowledgement in a joint meeting.
Sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, road department staff will work through Nick on that.
Thank you.
We do have a ton of bicycle riders that use the Lower Bridge Road up to Sisters Corridor because they go by my house constantly. So there's truly a benefit to the entire state.
Yes.
Well, yeah, it's exciting to be able to move this one forward in quick alignment with the Lower Bridge and 97 improvements. So that'll just change that corridor drastically in the next few years. So I'm real supportive of proceeding and really appreciate the real business-like atmosphere we have for just moving all these projects forward these days. With that, I'll move approval of document 2024-436, amendment number 1, the contract for engineering services for the Northwest Lower Bridge Way and 43rd Street intersection improvement project.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Do we have any other items right now?
Just campground feasibility study. We talked about Drafter Road, Fort Thompson Road, Lower Bridge. We kind of opened up that community discussion, got folks engaged. So it's just the opportunity for us to set a scenario up where we have community sit down or whatever we're going to do. So it's for the three of us to figure out what do we want to do next on that. I was able to have a joint meeting with about 7 of the residents yesterday, just sharing the big picture and high level concepts about who we think the customers are, what's the purpose of even having this discussion. So as I say, for us now, it's just how do we want to proceed with setting something up for a work session, I guess is the concept.
Yeah, I thought we were going to do a work session before anyone had individual meetings with people, but if that's what we're doing, then I'll go and have some meetings with. I'd like to go have some meetings with folks myself.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm no jockeying here. It was just people wanted to talk and I spoke. So I don't remember making some commitment not to. It was just opportunity to talk to folks. People call and I answer the questions. So.
Okay. Well, then
People were asking, when they were, a lot of the folks, when they were asking to have discussions with commissioners about this, they had specifically said they wanted to speak to us all together. So I'm just trying to honor that, but.
Okay. Well, it's been asked to put on the agenda, so perhaps we'll put it on the agenda.
Yeah, so this is our opportunity to say, what would that really look like?
Have those meetings.
Yeah.
If you want to follow through with that.
So a work session type setting, maybe kind of round table on the floor here or something. I'm just trying to put a vision to it. Open to the public, all three of us available, sitting in as a convened board of commissioners, but a little bit more informal environment. That's what I'm envisioning.
Yeah, no, and I'd like, there were so many questions about whether there's actually, demand for this service, whether there's market demand for campsites. If we were to create a campground, I think it'd be really helpful to have some actual regional expertise in on that. Maybe people from Visit Central Oregon or Visit Bend, people from the state parks or associated with the concessions on the Forest Service land, who can attest to the use of the heavy use of campgrounds offered by the state and federal government. Yeah.
Are you thinking official invitations or?
No, that one particular question, people like, well, I don't think there's any demand for this. I think it would be helpful to have a presentation on the front end of the roundtable discussion. or the work session. Might be interesting to ask representatives from some of our fellow counties who operate campgrounds to zoom in and talk a little bit about what it's like for their counties to run these operations. How they're as I've been saying to people, they're typically are frequently revenue neutral or revenue positive opportunities for counties. So, so that people can understand the, that we're not talking about just taking a bunch of taxpayer dollars and dumping them into a project. We might finance something and have a revenue stream that can cover the debt service and repayment of that financing. Those are just a couple of thoughts, things I would like to see presented at the very front end of this meeting.
Well, and then there's all kinds of opportunities to have a business type person that might want to run numbers. I mean, like Larry Kine and the guy that owns the camp here in Bend, in town campground. Anybody along those lines too, because if you took private money and you wanted to justify something like this, could it be justified for any reason? Because remember, then we're dancing with I spoke to Will Groves about this safe harbor of a county being able to do something like this on EFU land outside, referring to Fort Thompson, or in the city of La Pine. So there's just a lot of stuff to talk about there.
Yeah. No, I mean, if we want to talk about the financial aspects of it, we could ask the Echo Northwest team to come back and kind of lift the hood on the economic model that they developed and talk about when folks came and gave public comment for an hour, there were a lot of questions about that economic model, whether it had included everything it needed to include. So Echo Northwest could talk about, this was a very simplistic model that did this. If you wanted to include X, Y, and Z considerations, you could bring those in various ways. I think that would actually be another very good piece to add to the front end of this meeting. Work session,
as we all know what that means. Yes, don't we?
Well, so yeah, I mean, all we're doing is trying to setting a scenario up. So,
all right.
Do you have your thoughts, Nick, on that?
Well,
Do you have guidance from what we just said?
Well, if there's two commissioners if there are two commissioners that support a formal presentation, we're open to the format. I mean, it's the staff level. We'll execute whatever it is your preference is. We had just come up with a concept where if we have a room full of people could sign up to participate on one of the panels. And if the board is here at the front, then we have tables and we invite up 8 to 10 people that can have a dialogue with the board for X amount of time, unless the board prefers a more traditional, just come up and speak for 3 minutes. But it doesn't sound like that's what was intended. It sounded like if the board supports a dialogue, that's conceptually what we were thinking about. Now, if we want to include presentations up front, we can certainly include that as well. Whatever your preference is. And then just other questions such as dates and availability. We looked at the board's potential schedule, which is pretty tight for the summer. If we're not going to do it on a typical board day, do we do it on, for example, a Tuesday? Do we do it late afternoon, evening? Will this just be something that the chair will facilitate? Is this something you would want staff or a facilitator to help facilitate? Mm-hmm. Just a lot of questions about what this type of a dialogue might look like.
I mean, I'd support afternoon, evening. Doesn't have to be a regular business day. The three of us can work together. I mean, we're not, we have difference of opinions up here, but we're leaving space for each other to speak. So I don't know that we would have too much of a problem if Commissioner Dare was able just to run the meeting. So that's fine. I'm supportive of that.
I mean, if we really wanted to give people an opportunity for back and forth, that's definitely different than a public hearing or a public
Mhm.
or, our standard public meeting format. And it might be good to have staff facilitate a discussion.
Well, but that's going to be staff facilitating us speaking. I mean, as I say, and it was mentioned, it'd be the awkward moment of how is somebody going to ask somebody to stop speaking? That's the moment.
Well, most facilitators are pretty well practiced at that. There's parameters around what people are allowed to be talking about and not allowed to be talking, what's within scope, what's outside of scope. There's parameters around kind of civility and respectfulness, and there's time parameters.
Oh, boy.
And this is it's a wide open conversation still. So I don't know
I think we need to look at our summer schedule and see what the possibilities are.
well, at this point, would you be willing to kind of run a meeting like that as the chair?
Sure. If I'm in town, it will be great.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, it would be for the three of us. I'm not worried about.
Yes.
I think the key question is if we do want to invite presentations, it would be helpful. And Commissioner Chang, thank you. You identified some. Do we agree that we invite them to participate? And then we'll look at kind of a combination of their schedules and your schedules, which may push it to mid to later August might occur. We were trying to aim for something sooner, which July 18th or 30th, but that timeframe might or might not work for partner organizations to make presentations. So we're happy to operate with whatever time frame you wish.
Well, I mean, there's two dimensions of time sensitivity around this. Number one, there's a desire by community members to engage with the county on this discussion. But number two, the way that this started showing up on our agendas in the last couple of months was consideration of whether we wanted to seek state funding for further analysis, planning, master planning, so that we actually have some idea what we're talking about, more than just kind of these high level concepts that came out of a feasibility study. So my impression is that we need to, if we're going to move forward with a funding application, we need to decide that really soon, because that's let's do August.
I think it opens in
September.
August and then it closes sometime. And Jen, you're certainly welcome to join us. I think it closes in October. Jen will know the dates better than I have available.
Jen Patterson, Strategic Initiatives Manager, for the record. Yeah, so I'm just looking again. I haven't looked since last week, but it hadn't yet been announced. But when I spoke with the administrator of the grant program, they were anticipating to be on the same schedule as last year, which was opening around August, or announcing the grant opportunity around August 1st and closing mid-October. So I'm going to look that up. I was just typing when I was called up just to see if they've actually announced that yet.
And what's the name of that grant program again?
So it's the Oregon State, it's through the Oregon State Parks. It's the County Opportunity Grant Program. It's the title of it. And they still don't have the schedule up yet, but the schedule for last year was it opened on August 1st and applications were due October 1st.
And kind of the relationship between these two concerns, kind of addressing information desires from the community and a desire to discuss, and then also kind of responding to this application deadline. Many of the during the public comment, it seemed like the perception was the county has made up its mind on this and you're about to start construction. And it's really important to convey to people that that is not the case, that this is very early in analysis and planning. We don't have a specific proposed project yet, so you can't even put a price tag on it. So those things need to be in discussion with each other as well. We can't, if people perceive that we're about to, start construction on something that we've already made up our minds, but we're really early in the planning process, and we can't even present a proposal to them, like a real clear proposal with clear dollar figures associated with it, until we do some more analysis and planning. Then people who want to know what we're talking about have to let us do the planning before we can have a real discussion. And in the process of doing that planning, we can take tons of community input and tailor the project appropriately. But just assuming we're at a decision point already, and that bulldozers are ready to start clearing ground, that's not the situation. So we need to line up and sequence those conversations appropriately, and so that needs to play into the way that we are thinking about doing this work session as well. If it's not going to happen till late summer, then I would say I think we need to decide on whether we're going to seek this county opportunity grant program or not before then. If we want to have this work session before we make a decision about this grant, then we need to do it real soon.
I haven't researched that at all. I don't know the whole scope of why it's out there, and how would we qualify for it. So I'd have to do my homework on that.
I mean, we had the one presentation from Jen about the opportunity, which is what brought people out of the woodwork in the first place.
Yeah, but I mean, now you're saying it's time sensitive, so now it looks a little different. So
Brenda, we do have a meeting next Wednesday. Are we waiting to see if that meeting has an agenda?
Yes, there is a meeting next Monday. They're on July 3rd.
Yes, correct.
There are limited items on that. Refresh.
But of course, that's not giving our community enough time to be there.
Yeah, or if we want to ask people to come present, that's pretty short notice as well.
But I just wanted to confirm though that there may be a meeting Wednesday.
Yes.
Nick, when you were saying we have full agendas for the summer, is that based on your understanding of what we've got, or is that based on the limited number of days we're meeting?
I think the key question is if the board is not going to conduct the work session at a regular board meeting, then we looked at other available dates. And the two dates that we initially identified were July 18th or July 30th. Those were the earliest possible dates that are not on regular board meeting agendas and would accommodate call it a 4 to 7 p.m. timeframe, something like that. Is that correct?
Board meeting dates, because you do have several intense public hearings coming up in July, and then you've also got your multi-sessions of your comprehensive plans among your regular.
Right. We have 4 different dates for those, and they did get moved from the original setup. So into July. So that's further compounding July.
If we had a date that works for the board, July 18th or 30th, for example, we could begin to, as soon as we have a date, we can begin to publicize it, to reach out to a lot of different groups and interests. We can see if there's availability for any of the partner organizations or organizations to make a presentation to frame the market demand, the issue, such as Eco Northwest or others. It's really a call if we want to.
Oh, so that the 30th, you're talking July 30th? That's the day before the fair starts?
Right. It's a tough day for sure.
So we have no meeting on the 31st because that's the day we're at the fair. Okay. All right. Just
July 18th
refreshing my calendar.
July 18th appears to be, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The 31st is the first day of the fair and we are always there
10 o'clock.
for the
Grand opening.
opening ceremonies. Yes, yes, July 31st.
July
Yeah.
30th could work for me. I do have a now 3:30 meeting in the afternoon, but otherwise the day is open.
And July 18th is totally booked for me. I have like 5 things happening that day. Yeah, the 18th totally does not work for me.
Okay.
There's the audit committee meeting, there's a coordinated household response office meeting, and then we have a Sisters Economic Development meeting.
So the 30th. I'm just working around our schedules.
That would work for me.
Okay.
And that seems like a reasonable amount of time to also ask presenters to invite presenters and give them some lead time.
Great. We can begin to aim for July. I'm sorry, Commissioner Jerry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's fine. We'll aim for July 30th then.
We'll aim for July 30th. And then how about in my individual meetings with you on Monday, we can begin to discuss maybe just a few of the logistics so that we can begin to plan accordingly in short order.
There we go.
Great.
Forward progress.
All right. Commissioner DeVone, do you have any other items?
Well, so, people were very much responding to this fire in La Pine. I got a lot of phone calls, people very upset, dispersed camping may or may not be a cause of this, but just reminds us that we probably should step it up a little bit. What can we do? I'm motivated to really turn the corner on some uncontrolled dispersed camping close to our cities. And, I got to imagine we all have passion on this subject, and we're right back to square one where we say, as soon as somebody uses words, people get triggered, and then people start responding, getting defensive, and then it's like pushing each other's buttons. So, what else can we do to start moving this forward a little bit? Yeah. So, I don't know if there a way we can have a conversation at this board to put some kind of action in place. I know we've got a coordinated homeless office. You had the big super meeting, but within the next 3 to 6 months, are we going to be able to turn the corner on some uncontrolled dispersed camping or not? I don't see that we're going to be doing that.
I'm actually sending the governor the packet.
Doesn't matter. We keep pointing to people like, well, the governor talked and we talked to this group and we talked to that group. Nobody's really getting anything done. This is a very challenging time. I would love to be able to, so as I say, maybe a proposal here is to put that next little power group together and say, okay, what are proposals? Bring them to the coordinated homeless office. I'm not talking about starting parallel paths, but I'm talking about how do we get an action group going? Yeah. So
I was really
just an idea. I'm
I
fine.
was really happy to see that the Foundation for Affordable Housing added 10 veterans to their project. And that wasn't
We have 100 people. We take 10 people out of the mix. We still have 90 people and it's a freaking mess out there. So, how do we deal with this?
Oh.
So I'm just letting you know. Yeah.
So,
deal with this.
to look at it long-term, big picture, I would say that.
And I'm talking short-term and acute here.
Yeah, well,
Really tough with the fires.
long-term big picture is tells us what trends we need to focus on. So really important thing to understand is that the Bend area, including China Head, including Juniper Ridge, and the Redmond area are the only places in the whole Tri-County region that have had declines in homelessness over the
So we
last
take 100 people, we have 10
months.
less and we have less. That's fine, but it's still
Can you
acute.
Can you let me finish?
I'm just pointing out same logic. Okay.
So the real important thing to ask is why? Why have there been declines in those areas? I would say
Why can't we turn the corner on dispersed
say
camping that's in an uncontrolled and dangerous
the
situation?
only way you're going to pull people out of the forest is by giving them a better place to go.
See, and that's a stopping point right there.
Okay, well,
So, but
And-
I mean, that's an
There's-
opinion and I understand
yeah,
that. How can we
there's-
take that flip side conversation and move it forward also?
Right.
Well, the good news
Like
is.
you
when-
drive people out of one patch of the forest. If they have no place to go, they'll just end up in another patch of the forest.
Well, but-
Yeah, but then they're moving and they're not settled in and they're not dismantling cars. They're not starting fires and leaving piles of junk.
They're still starting fires all over the place.
Well, the good
I
news
mean, if people need to
As I
cook,
say, and I'm not assuming that yesterday's fire was started
yeah,
this way. I'm
you
just-
should be very, very careful about attributing
don't threaten.
causation to that fire before it's been investigated.
And I started off with that and I also corrected myself as I'm speaking. So I'm very sensitive to that. But this is why we need, how do we break through this conversation? Because we're elected officials ready to do something good. We want to do things for our people, the people of Deschutes County, but we get in gridlock as soon as we try to have a conversation.
Well, when you acknowledge that shuffling people from one authorized camp to another unauthorized camp doesn't do anything to reduce fire risk or reduce homelessness, we can start to talk about what we can do to actually bring homeless numbers down and get people out of the forest.
Well, the
How's
good
that?
news is the rents in Bend are dropping because they are now advertising and I call. And hopefully we'll have more of an action that way for people that do really just need that help. The people that we know Rick Russell works with. And hopefully there's another church or two that's going to take people. But then, of course, are they going to qualify? So that's always a problem.
So as I say, I'm trying to respect a coordinated response office, not too many cooks in the kitchen. We need to figure out who's leading and who's following and who needs to get out of the way. Basic management principles. And we're still not making forward progress.
But we are making
we have-
forward
we have
progress.
those tier projects that are right now working on their presentations.
So as I say,
And
there's a
there's-
whole flip side to this thing that I'd like to study a little bit. And it does look like a full run into a brick wall with all social expectations and norms of some people, but not other people. So yeah, I guess, by bringing this up today, I'm just pointing out that there's another way to look at this.
We have someone who's actually making a presentation on working on 5 acres on Juniper Ridge. And when you drive down Highway 97 and you see all that trash over there, right next to the dumpster. And the good news is Deschutes County sheriffs are now citing people, and those citations are actually now going to our circuit court and not the federal court because the federal court was throwing things out. So there are some responsible things that are happening, and I thank the sheriff's office for doing that.
And there are a lot of things that have been happening that are the reason that homelessness has declined for the first time in 10 years in the Bend area and the Redmond area. And there's a whole lot of lessons to be learned from those things. Basically, if we know what works to move people out of homelessness, the solution is to do more of those things.
All right.
But that's all I brought today.
Okay, Commissioner Kang, do you have anything?
Nope.
Okay, I would like to, I have an announcement that as of last Friday, there was $1 million available by the Oregon Water Resources Board. It's called Water Well Abandonment Repair and Replacement Fund. Okay, that sounds excellent, right? So then I get the details of that fund because I shared it with some people that were having well issues. If you have a household size, this is for low and moderate income households that have a well that need some help. Your household size is 2 residents. This is your gross yearly income cannot be over $60,000. So the folks that I've been working with, most of them don't qualify. And so I actually did hear back from the local Water Resources Board person who happens to be on vacation this week. But I said, is there any way that they could actually help people that make, let's say, up to 120,000, just a small proportion of that, maybe like $5,000 to help them with their well situation? Anyway, we're going to get together on that, but it's everyone that was hoping to get some help saw that chart from the state and they were like, no, I don't think that's going to help. So then I did go to the vision meeting yesterday in Sisters. Thank you, Whitney, for telling them that Wednesdays are not a good day for me. So, it was a terrifically sad week last week for Sisters community. They lost 2 incoming freshmen in that accident. And those 14-year-olds were both wearing their helmets. I know I've heard on the radio, they're saying, people, please wear life jackets when you're in the water. I'm not sure if it was a man or woman, but they had a drowning last week in the Sisters community. And then Friday evening, they had a rental home burned down to the ground. And there's a family of 3 Sisters students that lived in that home. Everyone got out safely, but the impacts to the community, it's a really small community, and it's a real tragedy what happened. And we'll only hope that the prayers that surround those families will be able to reach them. So we talked about Sisters yesterday at the visioning, and they have a lot of good things going on, and they're actually doing a presentation of all the positive things that happened in 2023. And that information should get out shortly to our community. So I believe that's all I have. And now I think we have an executive session.
Chair, just one more.
Oh, do you have something?
One more item Jen has regarding spay and neuter grants, I believe.
Man, we jumped the topics here, don't we?
Yes, now we're going to talk about bunnies. Jen Patterson, Strategic Initiatives Manager. Have a request from Embers Wildflower Animal Sanctuary and Bunny Rescue. They received a spay and neuter grant back in 2023 for $2,349. And they have not yet been able to spend all of their funds, but they do anticipate the need to spend those funds in the next coming 6 to 12 months. The way the initial grant agreement was written, it's a little ambiguous about when they have to spend those funds by, but it does specifically state that they have to submit their completion report by July 31st, which they will not meet. So they are asking for an extension. They didn't receive the grant funds until September 21st of 2023 anyways, and they're asking for an extension of 6 to 12 months from that July date. And the reason they're giving for not spending the funds was that bunny adoption is down. And so therefore they're not having a lot of rotation to do spay and neuter for new bunnies that are coming in.
Okay. 12 months, yes. Because we're not doing that this year, are we?
We're not, no. So we're going to an every other year program. So there's not going to be a spay and neuter
Right.
program this year.
So why not let them have 12?
So maybe just a status report for this period, and then extension is fine with me.
Great.
Great.
Do I need a formal motion, Kim, for that? No. Okay,
That's
great.
within Nick's authority.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay. So can we just take a 2-minute break for the executive? We are having now executive session, and I know you want to read something now.
Yeah, let me read it before we go off video. If we can.
Okay. Thank
right.
you very much.
Thanks.
Oh, Kim, I'm getting better.
The Deschutes County Board of Commissioners will now convene an executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660. The specific authorization for this executive session is ORS 192.6602E, which allows the board to meet an executive session in order to discuss real property negotiations. Designated staff and the media are allowed to remain during the executive session. However, the media may only report that the board met in executive session and the identified basis for meeting in executive session. Recording devices are not permitted. No final decisions will be made in executive session, and at the conclusion of the executive session, we will open the doors and invite the audience back to the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Riley. Thank you, Stephen. And we'll be Thank you very much, Stephen, for coming back. Coming out of executive session, Christy, please proceed as discussed for those items. And we did want to bring up that Deschutes County Sheriff's Office has released a update as of 11:33 this morning. And they're actually saying level 1, be ready. Evacuation level has been issued for the area west of Highway 97, north of Burgess Road, east of the Little Deschutes River, and south of Ridgeview Drive. So just want our community to be aware. And let's hope that,
Probably because of wind condition.
yes, the wind was projected to be 25 miles an hour. So, and Nathan said it was blowing this morning when he spoke with us at 9:20. So thank you very much. I do believe now our meeting is adjourned. We will have our next meeting next Monday, July 1st at 1 p.m. Thank you.